the game. You've seen it. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you.
Will you take that ridiculous thing off? You're acting like child. You're not a YouTube personality. You're just a nerd. In a mask. Yeah, I'm not gonna be wearing this thing the whole time. Hey, guess what time it is, everybody? It's Halloween, Halloween, everybody! Give a scream! It's Halloween! Yes, it's Halloween. It's time for tricks, treats, and the Muppets? You know the Muppets, right? They're those famous puppets like Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, Swedish Chef, and Dr. Phil Van Neuter.
If you experience any sort of unpleasantness, please let me know. I would hate to miss it.
They were created by Jim Henson way back in the 1950s and have been pop culture staples ever since, appearing in countless shows and films. Well, they just so happen to also be one of my favorite things ever. I've watched all the movies and the shows, and I've seen every episode of the current Muppet Baby series, for crying out loud.
Hey, I have a 2-year-old. Don't judge me.
I also own a ton of Muppet merchandise, like shirts, wall art, pins, Funko Pop, action figure. I only have the one. Vinylmations, Blu-rays, Tsum Tsums, pencils. Why do I have these? And of course, video games. Now, believe it or not, there's actually been quite a few Muppet-based video games on everything from the Atari 2600 to the Game Boy Advance to as recently as the PlayStation Vita, which seems oddly fitting, right? A property that Disney is slowly giving up on a console that Sony very quickly gave up on. I'm gonna go cry now. But the game I'll be looking at today is Muppet Monster Adventure, released on the PlayStation back in October of 2000. I mean, this looks pretty Halloween-y, right? I mean, Kermit's a Frankenstein monster in it, and Clifford's in it. That alone is pretty terrifying. Let's see what the back of the box has to tell us. Officially licensed Muppet product, well, at least it's official. 6 3D worlds to explore with 18 action-packed levels. I'll be the judge of that. Robin can morph into 5 cool... Robin? Robin? Of all characters, Robin? Why Robin? Why not literally any other Muppet character? Any of them? Like, where's Kermit? Fuck Kermit. Look, I have no idea if this is a controversial thing to say in the Muppet community or not, but Robin sucks. In a series filled with some of the most memorable, wacky, and hilarious characters in pop culture history, Robin is none of those things. He's just so damn innocent and cute and precious to the point of nausea. He's boring and painfully uninteresting. And in the 2016 Muppet Show, there was an episode about his parents going through a divorce, and the last thing I want from my goddamn puppet-based sitcom is to hear about a child dealing with his parents' marital dispute. I already have to put up with the idea of a frog and a pig porking. I don't need this thrown on top of it. I do like the halfway up the stairs number from the original Muppet Show, though. It's the only good thing Robin's ever been attached to.
There isn't any other stair quite like it.
Okay, so the reason you play as Robin is because the plot of the game involves Kermit and the gang visiting a spooky mansion that belongs to Dr. Bunsen Honeydew's great uncle.
Well, I know you're disappointed, Robin, but we had to accompany Dr. Honeydew for the reading of his late uncle's will.
You know what's the most horrifying thing you'll see this Halloween? Muppet legs!
Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, and Clifford get caught and turned into monsters, as if this thing couldn't get any more monstrous, while Robin, Bunsen, Beaker, and Pepe escape unharmed. Well, as unharmed as they can be, looking like this. Bunsen explains that they have to change their friends back, but the only way to do that is with a special power glove that was designed specifically for amphibians to use, so that's why Robin has to be the one to save everyone.
Seems practical.
This game is a pretty standard 3D platformer. You run, you jump, you shoot, you spin. Of course you fucking spin. The developers took one look at Crash Bandicoot and decided, duh, this must be why these games are so popular. All the spinning? Put it in our game. We'll be rich! Does this look like a character that goes around fucking spinning? For the most part, the game controls okay, but I feel like everything has a slight delay to it. Like, it doesn't react as quick as it should, and because this is a fairly early 3D platformer, the camera is not always great. They do give you multiple options for how to control the camera, which is nice, but it can still get stuck on walls or just not face the way you need it to. Since the game was released in a post-Ape Escape world, it does utilize the DualShock analog sticks, which I recommend using because trying to play on a D-pad was torture. There are moments that require some pretty precise movement, and the D-pad is just not made for that. The sticks barely work for that, but I guess after 20 years of being conditioned to use these things, going back to the D-pad for this kind of game is just not ideal.
Wow!
Robin also has access to 5 special monster abilities. Well, the game calls them special. I call them standard fucking moves you can do in any normal game. These include climbing up specific surfaces, gliding, pushing and pulling blocks, the ability to destroy certain obstacles with a powerful karate chop, and swimming. Yes, this is yet another game that involves an animal that should be able to swim, but can't. I refuse to believe that Robin is so useless that he needs giant monster fins to dive underwater. He's a fucking frog! The weird thing about these abilities is that you have to unlock them by collecting 5 unique tokens that correspond with the different Muppet that gives you the power. But you find all these tokens within the first 2 levels. 3 of them you unlock in level 1. If you were going to just give them to me immediately, why even bother making them unlockable? To make me feel like I accomplished something? Because I sure didn't feel like I earned anything by suddenly being able to push blocks. Some of the abilities aren't even used that often. You use the glide all the time, but the chopping and block pushing are only used for specific puzzles. The pushing doesn't even function properly. You have to wait a second before you can actually start moving the block after the animation is finished. If you try to move during the animation, you'll just stop and have to connect to the block again. It's a small thing, but it's really annoying the few times it showed up. Also, the swimming controls like butt. That's a common thing for 3D games. Even 3D Mario games don't have the best swimming controls, but I just felt like I needed to mention it. Just gotta lay it in there.
You know the trick I'd like the frog to do?
What's that?
Make us disappear.
The bulk of the game is laid out like a pretty standard collectathon, which these days has become sort of a dirty prospect for a game, but I don't mind a game being a collectathon so long as it's done well. Hell, I consider Donkey Kong 64 to be one of my favorite 3D platformers of all time, and I can fill an encyclopedia with that game's slog.
Okay.
But this game never quite hits that mark. You need to collect a certain number of evil energy, which is this game's equivalent of coins, to unlock each stage, and you need to collect Muppet tokens to unlock the boss of each world. These tokens function like stars in Super Mario 64 or Jiggies in Banjo-Kazooie, but they're not nearly as fun or rewarding to collect. Some tokens are just hidden randomly throughout the stage, like this one where it's literally right behind the building you start in. Because why be creative when you can just be lazy?
You know what? I'm napping right now.
Others require you to complete certain mini-tasks to unlock, like this memory game, collecting a certain number of mushrooms within a time limit, or racing this peacock. Because Mario 64 did a race, so we have to do one too! There's typically at least one of these kind of tasks in each stage, and while at first they seem to add some variety, you quickly start to see the same type of challenges repeated multiple times. Like, there's 4 different fucking races in this damn game. Then there are the bonus letters, or as I like to call them, padding letters. Hidden in each level are 5 letters that spell out the word bonus. Find all 5 and you unlock a Muppet token that is normally hidden somewhere that requires you to backtrack through the stage. So, not only do you have to search around for these 5 letters that ultimately just give you the same reward as everything else in the game, you also have to travel back through the stage just to receive it. It's padding. That's all it is. It's to extend the game's length. They exist to make the game feel longer and like you're accomplishing more than you actually are.
Here! Waste of time. Nothing will save this show.
And these stages are not worth traveling through multiple times. Honestly, I think the stage design in this game is its biggest weakness. I mean, it's pretty mediocre all around, but the stages especially suck. The problem is there just isn't enough variety in the stages, both in terms of design and aesthetic. They're all basically the same. They start out well enough. You're in a spooky mansion, so of course the first few levels take place around the castle grounds and in the halls. This works well for the beginning stages of the game and even gives me a bit of a medieval kind of vibe. But as the game progresses, everything starts to blend together with similar colors and architecture. And when they do try to switch things up, like with your standard desert and snow levels, it still just amounts to doing the same things, running from place to place, collecting items, and avoiding enemies. Even the enemies are recycled throughout the whole game. They give them unique designs for each world, sure, but they still do the same things. There's big guys, charging guys, shield guys, these fucking things that hit me every time I get near them because I cannot tell where their hitbox is. It doesn't even look like a touchscreen! It's all incredibly boring and so lazy, which is disappointing coming from a series where this is a thing. Even when I thought things might get interesting, I was just consistently let down, like with this pirate-themed level. I thought, you know, hey, cool, Muppets have done pirates before, and that turned out alright. Maybe this will be the first good level, but nope! Beyond the disappointing lack of Tim Curry, the stage looks like any other stage, but with some lighthouses and pirate ships thrown in. Also, there's this horrible goo stuff all around the stage. You're supposed to be able to jump out of it if you fall in, but it's so slow and difficult to do that instead you just flail about until you run out of health. Wonderful. Same thing with this sewer factory level. It seems like it might be cool with its machinery and vertical pipes and robots flying around, but then I fell in some goo and did some busy work and decided it's no better than the rest of the stages, fuck it. And let's talk about these switches real quick. Throughout the levels, there are these switches you have to shoot that activate various things, normally just opening paths that weren't open before. This is pretty standard gaming stuff. However, in this game, it's just more padding. Half the time, you'll hit a switch and it'll just open a door or a path or something right next to where you are, begging the question, why did the switch even have to get involved in the first place? Just let me go down the path. It's not hidden or anything. You just arbitrarily added one extra step to make me feel like I'm doing something when really, I'm not. This is bad game design. Sonic Heroes did the same stupid shit with, hey Sonic, we have to pull the lever to open this door! Oh, this lever that's right next to the door? Thanks a fucking lot, Tails. I didn't realize it didn't have eyeballs in my skull. God damn it, Sonic Heroes is a trash game. Anyway, what were we talking about? No, yeah, Muppet Monster Adventure. You know how I knew this was also going to be a pretty trash game? The second I went to pick up a health power-up and it actively ran away from me. After every 3 stages, there's a boss fight with one of the monster-fied Muppet characters, which is the only time any of them appear in the game outside of the first and last cutscene, by the way.
You're in over your head now, kid.
And man, do these boss fights suck. They're some of the easiest bosses I've ever had to fight in a game. They all have very simple patterns that are repeated all of 3 times with very little change up and can be bested so quick. Look at this second boss fight against Fozzie. I beat him in less than a minute.
I know this is a kid's game, but man, this is just unbearable. You know what? I am not even kidding. Waka waka.
Oh, okay, all right. Just get off. It's not funny.
I know it's a thinker. Should I explain it?
Not to me. Just get off.
Oh.
It's just terrible.
Oh.
So embarrassing.
It doesn't help that the game just straight up explains to you in detail how to beat each boss right before the fight starts, and even when the fight's going on, Pepe still tells you when to attack and what to do.
Duck under the hell of acorns at the last minute, okay?
The game as a whole isn't the pinnacle of difficulty, but the bosses might as well not even exist, they're so easy. The only remotely interesting one is this fight against Miss Piggy, mostly because it involves a new mechanic that hasn't been introduced yet. You just slide down an icy slope, avoiding obstacles until you get to a point where you can hit her, which the game does for you in a cutscene. Never mind, this boss sucks too.
Ugh, I don't think I can keep playing this, and like, what even is the point, you know? It's only gonna get 100 views at most if I'm lucky. Keep playing. You might get 200 views.
I'd maybe be able to put up with the less than stellar stage and gameplay design if the presentation was outstanding, but it's not. I mean, it's fine. For a licensed PS1 game, it looks fine, but it's nothing to write home about, and it lacks any of the charm the Muppet characters should bring with them. Compare this to something like Muppet Race Mania, where every stage is based on a location from a Muppet film, and it just looks so generic in comparison. The only thing that's kind of Muppety about it is the fact that everything has big googly eyes, which I know was kind of old hat at this point because Banjo-Kazooie did the exact same thing a few years earlier, but the Muppets were doing that shit 30 years prior, so it was basically a requirement by the time this game came out. Sound design is also pretty bland. Pick a 3D platformer from around that same time. They sound exactly the same. The music tracks all sound just like something you would find in fucking Gex or Glover or whatever. Although I do appreciate anytime they try to work in the Muppet Show theme melody into the various songs. It's cute. I give that a thumbs up. That's the best this game can do. The soundtrack was actually done by famous composer Michael Giacchino, who actually is responsible for one of my favorite film soundtrack of all time, The Incredibles. Which, unfortunately, I can't play you anything from due to copyright reasons, but I have prepared a lovely artist rendition for your ears to enjoy. The artist is me. The Incredibles has a cool soundtrack, such a cool soundtrack. Disney don't sue me, I can't afford it. Also bring back Muppet Vision to Disney's California Adventure. But this, he was clearly phoning it in that day. Also, the song that plays over the end credits is easily one of the worst songs I have ever heard in any Muppet-related product.
I will survive, won't take a dive. I'd be there now if I was old enough to drive. If danger's near, clear I will steer. For it's been said ghouls can smell fear.
And I've had to sit through this several million times. And you know, the one thing that could potentially save this whole audio situation is the Muppets themselves. The game does feature audio from all of the Muppet performers from the time period, and the dialogue is fully voiced, but the problem is, there's not a lot of it. Each of the main Muppets only have a few lines of dialogue, and they are never even remotely funny.
Watch who you're calling a monster, frog boy!
Kermit barely says anything at all.
Good work, Robin.
Hell, even Robin doesn't have that very many sound bites.
This can't be good.
But you know what character does have a ton of recorded dialogue? More spoken dialogue than any other character in the game? Pepe the King Prawn.
So, Pepe, the wonderful character that he is, access this game's hint system, giving you tips and advice on how to play the game every time you see him.
Stuck? Try pushing a block around again.
And let me tell you, they got real carried away with these hints. They explain everything to you, and they never stop. Right up until the end of the game, Pepe still shows up and tells you shit you already knew. Look, this is the last stage of the game, and he's still explaining how the goo hazard works, which is something that was introduced all the way back in Stage 6. This is Stage 18! And yeah, okay, you don't have to talk to Pepe if you don't want to, but I kept thinking he was going to explain some new element of the game to me, but no, same shit.
Watch out for the goo.
I'm not one of those people who normally has a problem with tutorials or hand-holding in games. I think games should be as accommodating and accessible to anybody who wants to play them. Options for that kind of thing are good, and this game is meant for kids, after all. But that's the thing, it should be an option. I can't turn off the Pepe hints if I want to. I just have to put up with his stupid-looking face in every square inch of every stage. Maybe I should have listened to him about the goo, though, considering I've died at this one part like 6 fucking times.
Where'd that Kylo Ren mask go? Because I'm about to throw a fit!
Having so few voice samples would be fine if the dialogue had that zany, offbeat sense of humor we've come to expect from the Muppets, but they don't. Pepe makes a few forced pop culture and fourth wall jokes, but none of the rest of the characters do anything. They're completely wasted. They could have just as easily been replaced with any other character in existence, and the game wouldn't have been affected in the slightest.
All this makes for a game that is not sensational, not inspirational, not celebrational, and barely even Muppetational. Apparently if you 100% the game, there's an extra bonus ending that you can get, but fuck if I'm doing that. I had to cheat just to get to the end of this game, because I don't care. Neither do you.
Look, there are a lot of Muppet games, and quite frankly, they're all shit. Well, Race Mania is pretty good, but the rest are crap. Most of them fall into the category of a minigame compilation, which actually makes sense considering the variety show nature of the Muppet Show. Makes a lot more sense than a 3D platformer based on characters that don't have legs 90% of the time! But even with that said, this game is better than most of them, and it is completely harmless when it comes to kids' games. It just doesn't do anything interesting with its premise or its characters, and has a lot of lazy gameplay elements that make it a slog to play through. I still wouldn't recommend it, especially compared to any of the other 3D platformers from the same era like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon, or hell, even smaller games aimed at kids like Glover or Bugs Bunny Lost in Time. But you could also do worse, I guess. Just like with Halloween candy. Yeah, Tootsie Rolls and Smarties aren't as good as Reese's or Sour Patch Kids, but you could be stuck with fucking Almond Joy or Good and Plenty. Muppet Monster Adventure is the Smarties of 3D platformers. I guess. I don't know. I was just trying to tie this back into Halloween, because it's a Halloween episode. Ooh.
Well, what did you think? Yeah, I know what you...
Hey, now let's talk about something that really scares some people. People online asking for money. Oh no! So, about a month ago, during my Isabelle Smash Brothers reveal video, I talked about the potential of starting a Patreon, like something that I was thinking about doing. Now, to my surprise, more people were actually talking about me starting a Patreon in the comments of that video than they were talking about Isabelle, which is weird, because it's a Smash Bros. Video, and people like Smash Brothers. Anyway, I got a lot of really positive responses saying, like, hey man, you should just start a Patreon if you want to start one. Like, who cares? Like, who cares? You do something creative, you should have the right to, like, ask people to fund that if, you know, if they feel like it. And I was like, okay, you know, I didn't really know how I felt going in about whether or not I wanted to start a Patreon, because I only get like 100, 200 views per video. So what business do I have asking people for money? So I thought really long and hard about it, and you know what? Yeah, why not? What's the harm? What's the harm? So I have in fact started a Patreon. Now, if you don't know what Patreon is, it's basically like a crowdfunding website where content creators of all kinds, you know, artists, YouTubers, musicians, bloggers, people that do something creative online and that don't necessarily get paid for it, they can set up like a crowdfunding where fans can donate any amount of money that they want as often as they want. Normally it's on a monthly basis. Some people do it by video. And they make money that way. People donate to them for the content that they create. So I've gone and made one. Patreon.com/ImpishMatt. I'll put a link down in the video below. So you can donate money to me for the content that I make. Now, I'm not gating off any content. This isn't something that you absolutely have to do to see the videos. The videos are still gonna come every 4 months like they normally do. No, I'm really trying to get back on track of at least one video a month. But, you know, if you like my stuff and you want to contribute, you can absolutely do that, and I will absolutely appreciate it. I have a full-time job and a family, and, you know, I just do this for fun, and I don't think it'll ever be anything more than for fun. Like, this is never gonna be a career or anything, and that's okay, but you know, it helps to, like, make some money off of that I can use to, like, upgrade my equipment, you know, maybe buy games that I can play for videos or whatever, and it's just a nice, cool gesture. Like, just during the making of this video, the fucking shitty-ass program that I use to make videos, like, corrupted or something, and I lost hours and hours and hours of progress on the video, which is, if this video is released after Halloween. The video is not done being edited as of this moment, and it is 2 days before it's supposed to go live. That's why, because my shit program was shit. So, you know, donating will help me to upgrade my equipment so that I can, you know, do better, you know, have better stuff and just be able to be more productive. And I've already got 4 patrons already, which is crazy to me. You know, my very good friends that have donated so far. Zerb, Colleen, Chris Wills, a.k.a. Madfather, and my best friend in the world, Ricky. You guys are great, and I really appreciate that. Shout out to Zerb for being the very first patron that I've ever had. That was sweet, and I feel bad that this video might not even make it in time, like I said. They do like reward tiers and stuff on Patreon. I haven't set that up yet. When I get to that point, maybe I will. I haven't decided if I want to do like, you know, any behind the scenes or Q&As or, you know, exclusive content like that. For now, it's just a thing that you can help if you want. You know, I really appreciate that. So yeah, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/impishmatt. You know, thanks for watching this far. If you've watched this video is like already like 25 minutes, so I appreciate it. Thanks. Check it out. Here's the end card thing.
Hey, thanks for listening. I know this one got a little bit of long-winded, but hey, share it, like it, comment on it. Check out some other videos, subscribe if you're not already, and maybe check out my Patreon. I already mentioned it, but I'll put a link down there. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye, 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 bye.